Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 1985 Nissan Safari Turbo. Now this was produced between 1980 and 1986 as the third generation of the Safari. Although it's only called the Safari in Japan, as in the rest of the world it is called the Patrol. And this has all models of this version have leaf suspension. But because this is a later version of this third generation, it has a 5-speed manual instead of a 4-speed. But like all other versions, it has a low-range gearbox and the ability to switch to 2-wheel drive in the high-range gearbox. And this is a diesel as well, and because it is a diesel, this has a larger clutch to deal with the extra power and torque that it has, as well as a larger oil cooler. It's because it's got so much more power and torque than lesser diesels and lesser petrol versions. And yeah, overall I really do like the look of this car. I think it's easily one of the better looking trucks from the 80s, with its chromed grille, its chrome, its shiny-ish wheels, its big mirrors that are also chrome, the massive spare tyre on the back, the turbo decals down the side, and then this slightly raised rear roof, which by the way can be taken off in this game and in real life. And the fact it's also got massive amounts of room. Yes, you got not the most amount of leg room in the rear for the passengers, but you got a huge amount of boot space, and yeah, plenty of space inside as well. It's very basic though, as you can see. It's only got wind down windows, and not a huge amount of luxury comforts, but everything that needs to be there is there. Air conditioning, the low range gearbox, and the like. So all nicely done, and all very workmanlike to deal with any of the rough conditions you're going to give it. And it's also got a massive winch on the front with quite the mega bumper at the front as well. So this is a diesel engine. It's a 3.3 litre turbo diesel inline 6, producing 108 horsepower and 188 pounds-feet of torque. Now I know that's not a lot by any means, but it's certainly not a lot for a vehicle that weighs 3,671 pounds, but it's actually a little bit more sharpish than you would expect. But yeah, it's hardly a speed machine, especially when it comes to its top speed. And even though we have reviewed this before, we reviewed this in Forza Motorsport 7, this is definitely a car that is way more at home on this game, with all the off-road elements that we can take it around on, all of the deep rivers that we can wade through and all of that lot. So it's definitely way more at home on this game than Forza Motorsport 7, although I did champion its inclusion in that game just because obviously it was a new car to the series. But it is nice to have it in a more suitable environment. So let's get out there and take a look at what it can do. So like I said, this is hardly a speed machine, but to get to the kind of off-roady course that we're going to be going along, you do have to go along this drag strip, so I figured we may as well start here. So let's see what it can do before we hit the speed camera, and then we'll take it on some off-road course. So like I said, it's not the slowest of cars you'd considering the amount of horsepower versus the amount of weight, but it's definitely a car that is a little bit lethargic in aspects. But then again, it's not meant to be a racing car. Yes, it's got kind of turbo decals on it that hint at sportiness, but it's definitely more of a it will get you there, just not maybe as quickly as you'd want kind of vehicle, to be honest. But I'm sure it was insanely reliable, especially with those leaf springs, which they're not the most sophisticated of suspension setups, but they are definitely dependable, and we'll deal with the rough stuff nicely enough. So let's get it onto the parts of this map where this is more at home. Not the best brakes in the world either, but then again, you're not going to be going particularly fast most of the time anyway. But it can do 0 to 60 in 16.5 seconds, which is not awful by any means, especially for a mid-80s turbo diesel engine, which were hardly the most sophisticated of engines back in the day. But it can't do 100 miles an hour. It can only do 92. But then again, given the suspension is quite soft, and obviously the centre of gravity is quite high, I really wouldn't want to be going more than that, quite frankly. Especially when you're dealing with off-road conditions where you got any kind of gradients or bumps that you could knock the car off of and potentially roll over. You don't really want to be going that quick anyway. So and it's more than capable of dealing with this rough stuff as well. But in case you don't want to, you can I don't think I can actually show you. No, I can't. But it does have the ability to change down to 4-wheel drive low range, plus 4-wheel drive high range, and 2-wheel drive high range as well, to depend on the conditions. Obviously, you put it in 2-wheel drive high range, and if you want, like motorway cruising or anything like that, then that's going to be the most economical setup for this car, especially with this turbo diesel, which I'm sure would get plenty of miles to gallon, especially if you keep it in the high range mode and yeah, put it into its fifth gear and chug away at that kind of speed. So yeah, I do really rather like this car. I know it's not going to be for everyone because it's not sporty or massively quick, and it's certainly not going to be able to keep up with the SUV modern equivalents with their 500, 600 horsepower engines and the like. But yeah, as far as workable, workman-like, dependable off-roaders that are of the classic variety, I do really rather like it. I love the way it looks, and yeah, it's enjoyable to just drive around and cruise around. But one thing I didn't expect with this car is when it comes to upgrading it and racing it online, because I have actually upgraded this to with another engine. I'm not sure which engine it's from. It's a 5-litre turbo diesel V8. Not sure if that's from a car that is currently in the game or is one that is coming up in the game in the new expansion. But yeah, I basically upgraded that engine up to 800 horsepower and well over 1,000 pound-feet of torque. And yeah, I actually was kind of competitive in this vehicle despite having, I think, only 3.4 in the handling stat. So yeah, I actually won a race in that and came second place twice. So yeah, even though it's a little bit cumbersome, it's certainly not a good handling car with that amount of power. It is properly quick in a straight line with that engine, and yeah, certainly no doubt surprises people, especially the person I was racing against who was in a Honda NSX-R GT, which, yeah, I beat by only half a second, but I beat them regardless. So yeah, you can get this really rather good off-roader by getting 20 points in the current festival playlist. Easy enough to do, and yeah, it's a glorious car to get for all that effort as well. So yeah, get out there and get it. If you have already, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. But yeah, nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.